that aids in the cooler's ability to dissipate said heat. The cooler has improved, by the way, according to NVIDIA, by about 5 degrees Celsius at 35 dBA. So that is a per noise level value, and we'll do further testing once we have the card. The air channel for clean is done in a few ways. One is DVI. So if I DVI, this reduces the amount of stuff that goes into the air. The DP to DVI dongle, so you will have that option to still run DVI rolling for otherwise. So that has been accounted for. We don't currently have price. We'll be getting that later tonight. So if you want to know the price, hit the link in the description below for the article, because I will update that immediately when we have the price. You will find that there, not in this video since we're filming before price was given. Other core specs, looking at 28 SM, I believe off the top of my head that is 3584 cores. It's 28 times 128 CUDA cores per SM. So that's still the same architecture, still the same SM layout. 128 times 28, somewhere around 3584 cores. So a bit more cores, 8 total more SMs than the GTX 1080 non-TI. And other items that are worth knowing include we've got memory capacity 11 gigabytes, speed 11 gigabits per second. Also in the realm of speed, this is regarding the 1080 and 1060, not the TI, but it's important to know there will be new overclocking SKUs offered to AICs and AIB partners and for the 1080 and 1060, and those SKUs are specifically for memory overclocking. This is a first for NVIDIA. That means that the new SKUs offered to the partners as they adopt them and start selling products will move to 9 gigabit per second GDDR5 for GTX 1060 cards, and will move up to 11 gigabits per second for the GTX 1080s, which were previously 10 gigabits per second. That is still GDDR5X or G5X for an easier version. The price for the Founders Edition will be the same as MSRP this time. So instead of having a Founders Edition price that is special and separate from MSRP, NVIDIA is now doing both. All MSRP is the same for everything. Founders Edition is the same as MSRP. So hopefully that reduces some of the confusion from the previous launch with the 1080. Why GDDR5X over HBM2? It's mostly because HBM2 in its current state can do about 715 megahertz or so. With the memory interface, it comes out to about 336 gigabytes per second. That is improving, of course. HBM2 industry is working on that, and NVIDIA does ship HBM2, just not on gaming products. G5X is ahead of where HBM2 is today in terms of memory bandwidth and raw throughput potential, especially at the price. That is one of the reasons. You end up, even at the 1 gigahertz range for HBM2, still end up around 484 versus 512 gigabytes per second, roughly the same ballpark. HBM2 is also limited on capacity, and that was a big deal for NVIDIA. They wanted to do a larger capacity, moving up from the 1080, of course, so they're looking at an 11 gigabytes versus 8. And HBM2, you'd be limited to 8. So that covers all the news we have currently. There will be more coverage in the article linked in the description below. Founders Edition boards will still exist. They will still be called Founders Edition. They're probably using Fairchild FETs for the FETs. Still waiting to get one in hand so we can tear it down, of course, and do the full review. Check back, subscribe to make sure you get the review once we post it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more. Patreon.com/GamersNexus to help us out directly. I will see you all next time.
Your killing spree is over.
From picking parts to putting them together, building a PC is too damn hard even in 2016. That is what a website recently said in one of their articles. And I take issue with this. So we really don't make it a point to talk about what other publications post. But this article was sort of attacking the idea of building PCs, and that's what we focus on. So when you attack that idea as vehemently as they did, I want to make it a point to counter and defend the PC building culture as it should be. So here's the thing, this article from said website, just lifting that up, no particular reason. The article points out that building a PC is, quote, too expensive, far too expensive, they say. They say that the SIs would cost too much more if you wanted to go to someone like CyberPower to have them build your gaming PC instead. And then they go on to recommend Apple, and I don't need to point out the irony there. Further, the article says, beginning to end, the process of building a computer took me almost 5 hours, and I had to make emergency calls to another editor in the process. And he says, once I couldn't figure out why the fans weren't spinning, probably weren't plugged in. And again, when the computer didn't recognize the Ethernet cable, probably no drivers. And then also said, and this is my favorite part, I was literally bleeding from a cut on my hand by the end of it, which YouTube guide said was common. Quote, I bled for this f***ing thing. Those were the words published on the website. So that stated, you know, aside from potentially bleeding out in the process of building a computer, I'm going to show you how easy it is to build a system. We have a full guide on this. It's only 23 minutes long, which for the whole process is not bad. You can go there if you want really the specifics and you're actually a first-time builder. Here, we're going to speed build the system. I'll show you how quick it is to put something together. We're going to pick parts off of our own rack and just pretend it's a Micro Center or Fry's or whatever, and put it together quickly, put it together properly, and sort of dispel some of this insanity that was published. People who build their own PCs aren't like garage woodworkers building their own birdhouses. They're not making anything in the same way someone might restore an old hot rod. They're just taking different parts from different companies and plugging them together. So I'm not sure exactly what those three different analogies mean, but if you're restoring a hot rod, you're probably not actually creating an engine in your garage. Birdhouses is totally nonlinear, but let's do this thing. Let's pick out some parts and put together a budget system, because this dude was like, I picked a GTX 1070 and an i7, and building computers is way too expensive. And he also already had a monitor, and it probably is a 1080p monitor, but we'll worry about all that in the somewhat of a warehouse room. Let's go over there. Okay, so my objective is pretty simple. I want to be able to play games with fairly high settings, high to ultra, at 1080p or 1440p, and we have the hardware for that. So first off, let's start with a CPU choice. I've got a ton of CPUs down here, as you'll see in B-roll, and we're just going to go with an i3 6300 for the CPU. Don't need anything too crazy. So we've got an i3. That is, I believe, a $150-ish part. I'm going to take the radiator off this. So we've got this B150A. We'll take the liquid cooler off, put something on that's more affordable slightly, but I'm still going to put a liquid cooler on there. It'll just be a cheaper 120 millimeter. And the reason I'm putting a liquid cooler on there, I would recommend going with either a stock cooler or an air cooler for this build, but the article specifically calls out liquid coolers as being very difficult to work with. So I'm going to put one of those on there and show you that it's not. You need a video card. Let's grab this RX 480 that we've been working with for far too long now. It's $240 for the 8 gigabyte 480. So we'll grab one of those. This is a Corsair CX500. That's a pretty cheap part, 500 watts, not modular. I think it's $50 before rebate. After rebates and promos, it's like 30 or 20 or something. We need RAM. What is this, Fury? This is Fury. Let's grab 2 sticks of this, even though it's a 4-stick. This is like 2400 megahertz or something. So we've got 8 or 16 gigabytes, but that's another $50 for 8 gigabytes of that. There's a 1 terabyte WD Blue. These are $50. We'll grab a WD Blue for $50. Case, I'm going to use either an NZXT S340 or a Corsair 400C, depending on which one doesn't require me going into the attic to get. And that'll be either $75 or $100. So our whole PC build, yes, the prices are a little bit they're okay, but you could certainly do better if you had Newegg accessible to you, but we're not doing that. We're going from what we have. So we're in this $600 to $700 range for the build. It is not exorbitantly expensive, quite obviously. Let's put this thing together and see if it takes 5 hours to do. So we're going to try and turn this into a bit of a learning opportunity rather than just beating up the author over the article. First of all, building a system, I'm going to speed build this thing, and I need to be attached actually to my anti-static wire, so let's just go ahead and do that. We've explained all this in the how to build a PC video, but installing a CPU cooler, specifically a radiator, the author sort of states that installing a CPU cooler that uses liquid is a huge pain, and that's really the opposite of what I've found to be true. So when you're installing one of these things, it's best to do it outside of the case and get it all situated first. And then once it's done, we can drop this whole board pre-assembled into the case and simply attach the radiator to one of the fan slots. Let's get this thing attached. I'm hoping for a few minutes here. Alright, so the CPU is socketed, or well, yeah, CPU socketed, cooler's ready to go. I think that'll give us the best mobility, having the tubes in that corner. Okay. This is simple as well. I'm going to do opposing corners. The thermal paste is already applied to the base, the cold plate of this cooler. Having the tubes in that corner really isn't where I want them, but this is an Asetek cheap 120mm liquid cooler. It's not branded or anything. The tubes are very short. If you buy a sort of branded, real, finalized liquid cooler, they will be much longer tubes and give you better flexibility. So you can position them wherever you want. But this is a good, cheap liquid cooler just to prove the point that they are not, in fact, a monster to install. You don't want to over tighten these, you're just going to once over. These are all exactly where they should be. So that is done. Let's get this RAM socketed. This goes into slot 2 and 4 if we only have 2 sticks, if we do. This is simple. Push the pins aside, drop the stick in, use thumbs, pop it, and we're good. So this is done. Now it's time to, let's get the power supply in the case next.
Heroes, I have opened a tunnel near our core that leads
So we're good to go there. That goes into the case. There's only one way it can go in. Just gonna stuff all these cables in. Not really stuff that you need to see on camera, but we'll show it all at the end anyway. So that slides into the S40. Okay, so the original complaint was that it's very difficult to mount a radiator because he was trying to screw in everything all at once. Here's my trick. I put the case on the side. About 8 of these screws. Don't get lazy with these, just screw them all in. And you'll notice I've got the radiator just hanging over the side of the case. This is the way I recommend doing it. We're going to install it as rear mounted. The author kind of said it takes a day of research just to make sure everything's compatible. Maybe your very first time if you're trying to do it alone, but that really isn't an issue. So I would recommend either our forums, our comment sections, Reddit's Build a PC section will take care of you if you have questions. So between all those different resources, there's plenty of things available where people can personally help you compatibility check stuff. So here's the quote that made me choose a liquid cooler even though I normally do air. The quote was, but getting there was a nightmare. It is by far the most difficult project I've ever bought and put together. Obviously has never bought anything from IKEA. Really, there is no good way to do this. A good way to do it. But the one part that stood out to me was when I'm pushing a water cooler down on the CPU while twisting its radiator into place and screwing it into place at the same time, it becomes clear that PCs don't just work, quoting, I suppose, Apple marketing campaign. So, we've mounted this first. That goes first. That reduces the workload substantially. Once that's there, take the radiator tubes down. You want them oriented down. The pump will work better with gravity that way. I do tubes down. That will work the best with the cooler that we have and really most of them on the market. And that's just because of gravity, pretty basic stuff. And the radiator, no twisting and turning involved. Okay, there's one.
I believe that key
2
was yours.
But that is the last screw. All that's left is installing the hard drive, connecting the cables. For the most part, this is about as straightforward as it gets. GPU installation, very simple. There we go. GPU is installed. Not the hardest thing I've ever done, I'll say that much. Okay, so cables, that's all that's left. those. Is there a cutout in the power supply shroud? Yes, there is. One of these. Let's see, is this one? We're gonna need a SATA cable that'll stay behind this thing. Then we need a CPU.
Well done,
Header.
heroes.
24 pin. It goes in the 24 pin slot. That's right there. Ignore the flexing of the motherboard. I know someone will comment on it, and I don't care. We're gonna plug in the PCIe cable into the RX 480. Hide the rest of it down back in the hole where it came from. Now we've got to connect the 8-pin, which really I should have done before the radiator, honestly. So I can see it actually. Done. Ow. Oh, look.